Welcome to the Festival of Storytellers.
I can't tell you how excited I am to be on right now. It's been a couple of weeks of excitement getting prepared, and I've done a lot of things in my life, but this has got to be close to the top.
Thank you, Reader's Magnet, and thank you, John, for putting this forth and taking the chance on our authors in presenting this out to the world.
I've enjoyed this immensely, Joanne.
Ellie, so have I. Thank you for who you are, and thank you, Reader's Magnet. You all are beautiful, and you've worked so very hard, and we are blessed.
We are.
I thank everybody that's involved with this process, because we know writers need readers and writers need publishers. We thank Reader's Magnet and everybody that's involved. I love Reader's Magnet. They say, we share your stories with the world.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's afternoon where I am, which is in Central Time Zone in the United States of America. I'm hoping that maybe there are people all over the world that are viewing in for the Festival of Storytellers. If you have not come in for any of the other sessions, but for maybe just to see me because you know me or you've read my book or someone has referred you to here, I would recommend that you, by all means, check out some of the other authors on this site for the Festival of Storytellers. There are some incredible authors and some awesome stories. In April of this year was the Festival of Storytellers, and this being the second one. Let me tell you a little bit of background. First, number one, I am Bobbie J. McLaren. I born in South Florida, lived there for about 28, 29 years. It's in between there. Anyways, and then I have since then moved to Northeast Alabama, live out on Lookout Mountain that runs from Chattanooga and North Georgia all the way to Gadsden, Alabama. It's a lovely place. It's, if you ever want to go see leaves change, you don't have to go to the Smokies. You can come here. However, so the Festival of Storytellers, when it first came about because of COVID, and so many people were unable to attend in person book reviews and book gatherings and things like that, it came about so that authors would be able to have a platform that they could reach out to people and say, hey, number one, I'm here, and number two, I have a story to tell. Now, whether their story is fiction, nonfiction, sci-fi, romance, mystery, whatever genre you want to go into, the fact is that somebody was inspired to write a story, and they're looking for you, the reader, to want to read it. Well, the first Festival of Storytellers back in April of this year, 2021, was incredible. I mean, I watched so many of the different programs and so many of the different authors that I actually ended up buying. I think I bought more books than I actually sold at that time, because I'm an avid reader and I really do enjoy reading. I like all genres of, I'm just not real into the graphic horror murder stuff, because I have a very incredible imagination, and it tends to go to bed with me and give me nightmares. So yes, I'm a sensitive baby. What can I say? But anyways, so now we've come to the Festival of Storytellers 2. And what you're seeing now is a portion of that. And once again, it's a platform for authors who have written books check out the different authors to see, like, there's a lady on here, her first name is Ellie, I don't know, Eleanor, I don't know how to pronounce her last name. However, she's written a book on being the caregiver for her mom, and then she's also written a caregiver's cookbook. And this year, this wonderful lady has over again has made things that make me like, if you had smell-o-vision, you hear chefs and stuff say, oh, if you had smell-o-vision, you could smell this. Well, she made some things that I wish that, and of course it's around lunchtime when I'm watching it, and I'm thinking, I'm about to starve to death. Of course, you can tell by looking at me that I'm starved. But anyways, she's a phenomenal personality. And by taking her personality and her wisdom and her experience and putting that into books, whether it be her first book about being a caregiver to her second one on the cookbook and the recipes, I'm just telling you, you need to check it out. There's several, many more authors on here. I was fortunate enough to be the moderator for Clarence Cosby, who has written a book called Soul Exchange. Now, I realize that this 30 minutes is supposed to be all about me, but I want to tell you what makes me me. He's written a book about soul exchange, selling your soul for success. And I was like, man, I got to read that book. So, of course, I did. I actually bought it before I did I was his moderator for his Author of the Hour. And it's fascinating. The very first chapter. And see, one of the reasons that I want to talk to you guys in this 30-minute segment is I'm hoping that I can reach maybe some writers out there that you don't have the confidence and you're like, man, who's going to read what I write? Well, personally, I thought the same thing. I still think that sometimes, like, really? Somebody's going to want to read this? But they found out that there are a lot of people out there that want to get their hands, whether it be on an ebook, whether it be in a hardback, paperback, they want to be able to have some way to get beyond where they are right now. And with so many people not participating because of the coronavirus, because of so many other health issues that are out there, some people just have different anxiety disorders that they don't leave their houses. So once again, you may have a story that somebody would want to hear. So I'm going to give you just a little bit and tell you about this. Number one, I encourage you to check out the other authors on this site. There are more than you could probably keep up with, especially if you work a job. You may have to save it and play it later. The fortunate thing is these are they're saved on YouTube, and some of them are on Facebook. You can go to Reader's Magnet on Facebook, and you can actually pull up different authors if you did not get to see their Author of the Hour, or if there were certain segments that you wanted to see. You can actually go to Reader's Magnet on Facebook, and you can pull these things up. You can go to www.readersmagnet.com, and you can also find these different authors and what they have available. A lot of them have more books than what is actually listed for maybe like this storytelling time. The book that I have down is The Sounds at River's Edge. However, I do have a children's book coming out, and Reader's Magnet is my publisher for that. And it will be the first annual Duck Springs Whistling Contest. So see, I have another book in the works, but it's not here right at this moment that you could put in your hands. Very soon, very soon. So when I first got started writing, it was because I was encouraged by other people that kept saying, if you don't write it down, people won't remember. If you don't write it down, and we've proven statistically and scientifically that if you study something, like let's say that you're an avid Bible studier, let's say that you're studying for college, you're studying for a certain course. You could be in food safety and in restaurant management, which I'm familiar with. You could be studying for all of that. The more that you look at it and write it down, you remember. And the more you remember, the more that your memories begin to come, with clarity. So if you have something that you want to write down, that you don't want lost, and you want to leave as a legacy to someone, whether it be fiction, nonfiction, like I said, sci-fi, mystery, romance, uh, crime, whatever. If you have that, begin writing it down. If you have poetry, write it down. If you feel you got a song, write it down. And if you can't write, because some people say, well, I don't have my hands don't work like they used to. They have wonderful apparatuses. That Dragon is, I think, one of the probably the most well known, that you can hook into any computer, whether it be a laptop or whether it be a desk computer. You can hook it into that computer, and when you speak, it will actually put the words in the screen so that you don't have to type and you don't have to write. And I can encourage you that if you're unable to write, or if you feel like maybe your thoughts go so fast you can't keep up with it, look into one of those things like Dragon or something that would be comparable. So now, moving along, when I first started writing, actually before, well, I've always written. I have poetry written. I've written gospel songs that I've had published. I used to travel with a group called The Way of the Son, S-O-N, meaning the Son of God. And we traveled and we sang our own songs. Of course, we did sing some of the Bill Gaither songs and some of the other contemporary songs at that time. But I wrote my own music, wrote the lyrics, and write poetry. I've always written short stories. I used to make stories up for my niece and nephew. And I would write those down because the kids liked them. So I wanted to remember what I had told them. Sometimes I would make the stories each time a little bit bigger than it was the time before, but write it down. Don't be scared to put these things down on paper. If you're in a facility, or if you're in an area where you have other writers somewhere in that area, like you're in a big city. If you were in a city like Atlanta or Pittsburgh or Dallas or Los Angeles, or if you're in Tokyo, wherever you are, there are numerous people that probably write and are authors that you just didn't know were nearby, and you can reach out to them a lot of times via social media, whether it be Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, and you can reach out to them and ask them if they would be willing to maybe look at your stuff. Now, a lot of times they don't want to because they don't have time. And sometimes if they do it once, then they end up getting inundated with just manuscript. And they, as writers, they have to have that time to be able to be creative themselves. So you don't want to overwhelm somebody with that. However, if they're willing to either talk to you, sometimes all you need is the encouragement. Somebody to know that, just somebody out there that's saying, you know what, man, you can do this. You can do it. So look for people in your area if you really want to get started. Like I said, even if you're a cartoonist, if you do drawings, whatever talent it is that you have, reach out to somebody that seems to have had some success with this, that might be willing to encourage you. Now, in my area, I live in a very small town. It's called Fort Payne, Alabama, and it's in the county of DeKalb. When I moved here from Florida, it's spelled Dakalb. Seems like it should be DeKalb, but it's DeKalb. It's like the L is silent, like the K and no and that kind of stuff. The P in pneumonia. Yeah. Anyways, the L is silent. And in DeKalb County, we have a huge variety in this small little neck of the woods, very small town. I think they might almost have 15,000 people here now. But you got to remember, I came from South Florida, Palm Beach County, and Palm Beach County is, by land, it is the largest county land-wise in Florida. But population, it's still growing. Yeah, still getting big. Anyways, To move here was like moving back again to where South Florida was when I grew up. It was very rural, very wooded. And growing, now that I'm here, you would think that maybe there wouldn't be a lot here. But here we go. Little be known, one of the most famous country musicians, groups, are actually from DeKalb County. Some of them actually still live here in Fort Payne, and that would be the Alabama Band, with Randy Owen as the head singer, and you got Teddy Gentry and Jeff Cook. Well, they're right from this area. If I was looking to become a musician, I would want to maybe talk to some people that have worked with them, to find out exactly what they did. They didn't just pop up overnight. They worked hard to get to where they are. There's a young man, I say young man, he's older than I am, but who wrote a book a few years back. And his book, his book came about because he thought somebody needed. He was out in California at the time. He's from this area also, but he was out in California at the time, and he was trying to think of. He wanted to become. He was thinking about being a playwright, and he was at that time. And he thought, man, what about if somebody were to walk the trail of tears? Now, some of you that are maybe not from the Southeast are not familiar with the Trail of Tears, but there were hundreds of thousands of Cherokee and Choctaw Indians, mostly Cherokee, that were taken from the southern states of Georgia and Alabama and Mississippi and Tennessee, North and South Carolina, and they were marched on. It's called the Trail of Tears because so many of them died, from here to Oklahoma to the reservation. And the more he thought about the fact that somebody needed to do this play, on this, all of a sudden he was inspired to actually walk this trail himself. And he did. He walked this 900-mile trail, but he did it backwards. It's called Walking the Trail of Tears. And it's a phenomenal book. It was even nominated for a Pulitzer Prize. So here we go. He was inspired to do something, but he thought someone else should do this. Until one day the realization hit, man, I need to do this. His name is Jerry Ellis. If you ever want to read his books, he's marched with Sherman through Georgia. He has walked the Pony Express. The man is an adventurer. He's written numerous books. And even now they're talking about making his movie, a movie out of the Trail of Tears. So it all started with a vision. It all started with somebody needs to do this. So he lives right here now. Since then he moved back years later, and he lives out on a ridge where his family grew up. His family is Cherokee Indian in their lineage, and he has writers' seminars every year. And in the writer seminars, he always invites other writers besides himself. His sister is Sandra Lafferty, and she is an actress, and she's been in The Hunger Games. She's been in Walk the Line as Ma Maybell. She's been in so many different stories and movies, and she didn't even start until she was in her later years, from what I understood. But she came and she did a rendition of Granny Dollar. If you're not from this area, you don't know who she is, but she's a legendary Cherokee lady that lived on top of Lookout Mountain here in DeKalb County. So he has these seminars, and he goes around the room and encourages people to voice what they're thinking. Sometimes you just need somebody to be a sounding board. You just need them to tell you, yeah, this is good, or yeah, that's not real good. Now, Clarence, in our session with his author of the hour, he said that, a lot of people, he worried because his mom was like, oh yeah, man, that's great. Oh, that's awesome. But your mom being your mom. And I knew exactly where he was coming from. Sometimes you think, well, she's my mom. She's going to think, I could just about blow bubbles and she's going to think, "Oh, that's so great. Look what you're doing." And I say that, but come on, when babies sit around and they're like, "Boo, boo, boo, boo," and they're blowing bubbles, we think that's just darling. Of course, when you're like a 40-year-old man, that's not so cute. Hey, when you're 80, it's not cute either. So, anyways, but he was like, you want to make sure and he asked his mom, "Now, are you being real with me? Are you being honest? And these are things that you need to know. Make sure that the people that you share your heart with and your work with want to actually tell you the truth." Now, I don't know that you want them to be absolutely brutal. I do. My best friend, I would take her my stories and I'd say, "Here's my story. I want you to read it. I want you to edit it. I want you to tell me if it's cohesive, if does it come together properly, or am I just like shooting words out on a page?" And so she would, she'd take her little red pen and she would edit and she would critique it and she would tell me, "Okay, you've got an unfinished thought here. You need to either finish the thought or take it out because it needs to marry in the story so that everything is cohesive, so that it comes together and it's clear." So I'm very fortunate for that. And regardless of what she would tell me, even if what she said would be, "Man, I'm not crazy about the way you wrote. Good story, but the writing in it is a little bit like bouncing around. So just go back." And she would, she'd write on the paper and she'd say, "Okay, you need to do this, you need to do that." And I would go back and I would do rewrites. So is my book perfect? An English major or a professor may look at it and go, "Man, your grammar really was not all there." But I wrote from my heart, and I may have ended sentences with, what is it? You're not supposed to end with a preposition. Well, I probably did that a few times. And I may have ended it. Maybe I put too many commas. I do have a tendency. My English teacher in college told me that I was a comma dropper. Yeah, I would just, they were everywhere. So I have since begun to learn not to just sprinkle commas like rain, and how to use the semicolon properly. I love the little, dot, 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 like an unfinished, like, "Well, it was going to be," and then you're like, dot, 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 while you're thinking about your thought, and then you add what it is in there because it's an unfinished thought, and so that's one of my favorites. But I get carried away with it, and I want to do it on everything, so I can't do that on everything because then it gets boring. But anyways, back to the other. Jerry Ellis, he was doing his first book did so well that he went on to do the other books, and he's still writing. And now, is he absolutely wealthy? I have no idea. I don't care. The fact is that I like his writing. I like his books, and he's a very interesting person. Now, if you want to share your books, let's say that you're a new author and you don't know, one of the things that Clarence and I spoke about, and Clarence, I hope you don't mind that I'm dropping your name here, but Clarence Cosby, once again, the author of Soul Exchange. Anyways, one of the things that we talked about was he had already had a book signing. Very important. Now, I wrote my book back in 2007 and I did not market it. However, now I'm marketing it with the help of Reader's Magnet. And here's the thing. If you want to get out there, I made a connection at one of the writers' workshops with this other writer that she writes all kinds of different stuff, and she paints, and she's a doctor. She's a veterinarian. And how awesome is this? She made a way to have a book signing at she calls it Bubbles House. And that's what we did it out in the yard. We had like a lawn picnic type thing. And she invited all these people. We invited people on Facebook. We invited people with flyers and stuff. And we did a book signing, and I did a book reading there in the yard. And she provided a wonderful lunch and everything. Now, is everybody going to do that? No, not necessarily. However, you never know when somebody would be willing. I told Clarence, check with his local library, because a lot of times libraries, he had this concept that a library was where you just went to get books and it always had to be like, but they're not. I've already been invited by our librarian here in DeKalb County that when my children's book comes out, she wants me to come and read to the kids. I think that's awesome. I am excited about that. So, anyways, I want you to understand there are other places. You don't just have to have a book signing in a bookstore. Now, that would be great. I don't even know for sure how it goes about, like the big ones like Barnes and Noble, Books a Million, the different bookstores that are the big major brands. But if you have local bookstores in your place, check with them and find out. A lot of times, even churches, unless you've got some kind of like gory serial killer book, they're even willing to, they might have women's clubs, they may have different men's organizations, youth groups that would be willing to let you come and talk to them and get your stuff out there. So if you feel like you need to get out and you want people to know about your book, get out there and talk to people. Find out friends of friends and friends of friends of friends. Put it on social media. Hey man, I'm an author. I've got this book. And I was just wondering if anybody would like for me to come and to talk about. People will come here in Fort Payne, and I'm going to have to wrap this up here pretty quick, but here in Fort Payne, we have what's called Boom Days, the third Saturday of the third weekend in every September. And it has to do back in the 1800s, the late 1800s, there was a coal and iron boom here in Fort Payne, Alabama, or in DeKalb County, right in this area. Train came in, they built hotels, they built an opera house, they had all kinds of stuff that was built, and then all of a sudden everything ran out and it went boop. So, but we celebrate Boom Days because that's how Fort Payne came about. So, on Boom Days, I was invited to be one of the authors in the author section of Boom Days. They have arts and crafts and kids sections and everything. They have an author section. They had a place for people that do quilts. They had a wine and cheese tasting right next door to where we work. Anyways, and but check it out. Go to some of the different fairs and things and see if you can get a space that you can take your book, like my book here, see, The Sounds at River's Edge, take your book and ask them, listen, even if it cost you a little bit of money, which with Boom Days, it didn't cost me anything, but I've been able to speak at the Lions Club. I've been able to speak at Altrusa. I've been able to speak at a lot of the different organizations. So don't let your world be too small. Let it broaden and get out there and see what's available to you as an author. And if you're a future author, don't give up on writing. Write it down. And if it's not right, write it down again. And then eventually you can find you a publisher. If nobody else wants to publish your book, you can find a publisher like Reader's Magnet, and they're more than willing to take your book and put it into paper or put it into an ebook. But do it. Don't hesitate. So this 30 minutes I've spent basically asking you, don't give up. You keep on doing it. You keep on writing, keep on looking, and you will be a success whether you sell 1 million books or 10. You've still done the work. Kudos to you, man. See you tomorrow. Bye, guys.